Center for Spiritual Living.
Good morning.
Ernest Holmes writes, "Declare your freedom. Know that no matter what others may say, think, or do, you are a success now, and nothing can hinder you from accomplishing your good." I'm going to read that again. Declare your freedom. Know that no matter what others may say, think, or do, you are a success now, and nothing can hinder you from accomplishing your good. So please join me in speaking this declaration with conviction. I declare that I am free to be whole. My life reveals the power and presence of the source of life. All my needs are met now. I am free to experience the greatest good I desire, my highest and best now. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Reverend Dr. Judy Morley. Dr. Judy is a renowned speaker, leader, scholar, and entrepreneur. She was recently senior minister and founding minister of Foothills Centers for Spiritual Living in Evergreen, Colorado. She was publisher of Science of Mind magazine for 7 years. Yeah. She was on the board of the integration committee of the Centers for Spiritual Living, Delaware, a few years ago when we integrated the new thought centers across this country and across this planet. Mm-hmm. Wow. She is the executive and spiritual director of Intuitively Speaking, a Centers for Spiritual Living focus ministry, which I'm hoping to hear more about later. Reverend Dr. Judy has recently relocated to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, where she is on the faculty at the Lincoln Leadership Institute in Gettysburg. So please, I feel so honored and blessed that we get to enjoy and be inspired by Reverend Judy today. So let's offer her a warm welcome.
Thank you. Well, thank you, everybody. I've noticed there's that nice little step back there. If you don't mind, I'm going to stay out here because I don't do well behind podiums, as you can tell. I'm only 5 feet tall. So, well, today the title of my talk is Your Own Personal Declaration of Independence. What else could it be? We are coming up to the 4th of July. And the thing I love about the 4th of July and the Declaration of Independence is that it is so much more than a political document. It is so much more than a political document. It is a statement of universal principle. And what did Ernest Holmes do in the 1920s? He made a statement of universal principle. So the documents of the Science of Mind textbook and the Declaration of Independence are more closely aligned than you would know. But they are very closely aligned. So let's go back for a minute to 1776. 1776, the American colonies, of which this is the first time I've ever lived in one of the original 13 colonies. I'm from Denver, Colorado. We came around 100 years later in 1876. But here I stand in the first state. I know. For someone who loves history, this is like, whoa. But these colonies wanted to declare their independence from Great Britain. So they write this beautiful document called the Declaration of Independence. Now, there are not very many political treaties that we quote in churches. Can anybody quote the treaty that ended World War I? Anyone? No. But this document was taken to a new level by its authors. There were really 5 authors, 3 main ones. We know of John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, and John Jay were the main ones, and then Robert Livingston and Benjamin Franklin added their little twist. And in this document, they say a statement of universal principle. They say, We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men and women are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, and that among these rights are
life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Yes. I want to let you know that that's what freedom is. It is about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But here's the interesting thing. The Declaration of Independence was written in 1776. It didn't do anything. It didn't do anything. I mean, it was a statement of intention, and it was a magnificent statement of intention. But it didn't do anything. King George didn't go, oh, okay, go ahead, guys. There were things that had to be done. There were experiences that had to happen. There was consciousness that needed to shift until the United States became a country. Does anyone know when the United States actually became the country we know today? It was not in 1776. It was in 1789, 13 years later, when the Constitution was framed. What's going on in those 13 years? What's going on? The founders of the nation had to shift their consciousness to understand the meaning of freedom. So how does this relate to Ernest Holmes? Ernest Holmes said in the inaugural issue of Science Mind magazine in 1927, he had a declaration of principles. We call it What We Believe. You might read it in the front cover of every single magazine that's produced. Number 5, we believe the ultimate goal of all life to be complete freedom from all discord of every nature, and that this goal is sure to be had by all. Yeah. That's what freedom is. It is complete freedom from all discord. And how do we do it? We have to embrace life, we have to choose liberty, and we have to pursue happiness. We have to take action. We have to take inspired action. We cannot wait for the world around us to change before these things happen. We have to take the bull by the horns and make it happen. So let's talk about each one of these. Life. We have to embrace life. We have to embrace life. This is an active thing. God is always flowing through us. God is who we are. God is not some abstract concept. God is who we are, and it is flowing through us. But God can only do for us what we are willing to do for ourselves. So what frequently happens is, like those colonists, we state this amazing intention. We are an independent nation. How many of you have ever stated a big intention? I have a better job, I have the right relationship, I have perfect health. Anybody ever tried that whole intention thing? Yeah? Okay. Thank you, Virgie, in the back. I see one hand. Anybody else ever? Okay, good. So we've stated intentions. And then this is the typical pattern. I've done it. I'm not going to out you and ask for a show of hands on this one. We wait around for God to change all the conditions out there so that our intention comes to us. And we wait, and we get mad at that person that they aren't doing it, and we get mad at them, right? That's not how it works. We have to embrace the life we want. We have to act as if it is already happening. Now, here's the big distinction that I want to make. This is an emotional journey. This has nothing to do in this portion of it with what we do. We have to feel as if it's happened. I know many people, myself might be one of them, who've had the experience of saying, I want more money. And then I go to a New Thought Center for Spiritual Living, and some perky little minister goes, oh, just act as if it's already happened. And so I go out and I spend money I don't have, or I get into debt because I'm acting as if, right? I know none of you have ever done anything that silly, but I have. That's not the acting as if that we're talking about. Because inside I hadn't embraced the life I wanted. I still felt poor. I was using going out and spending money on things to convince myself, rather than convincing myself that that power and presence and freedom that is God, that life is already living in me, and just having the faith and knowing that the good is coming, and then when the money appears, spending it, but having the faith that it will appear. So when I say we have to embrace life, we have to act as if it's already happened from an emotional perspective. We have to believe it's happened. We can't be waiting for the conditions out there to change in order to convince us. Now, this is huge. You guys have heard Reverend Kathleen and probably others say this before. I get that I am not telling you anything that you haven't heard. But I am asking you today to declare your own independence by embracing the life you want emotionally. Take time every day to ask yourself, what would it feel like if I had this? How would I breathe? How would I walk? How would I drive my car if I knew that the job, the relationship, the health, the career, the money, the house, the whatever were there? How would I feel? That's how we embrace life. That's how we are endowed by our Creator with life. We feel that life flowing through us, and then we act. You guys, many of you I'm sure have heard this, but there is not a greater statement of this, I don't think, than this is by Marianne Williamson. You guys all know which was. Several of you, I hear the, oh yeah. I'm going to read it again anyway, for those of you who've heard it. For those of you who haven't, listen up. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give others permission to do the same. So we embrace life. We embrace life. That's how we declare our independence, is we embrace life, and we know that that life of God, nothing less than God, is moving through us. 2, choose liberty. Choose liberty. Choose liberty. Liberty is a choice. It is a choice. Again, I've heard that some people, and myself, I'm sure none of you, feel at times like they might not be free. Like someone out there is doing something to them. Your boss probably requires you to be at work 40 hours. Your spouse might, or your siblings might, or your whatever. Somebody might be forcing you to do something. We have to choose to feel free. We have to choose that liberty. And we can choose that regardless of the conditions outside of ourselves. I love the equation E plus R equals O. E plus R equals O. That stands for event plus response equals outcome. Sometimes we can't control the events in our lives, the E. Things happen. We have to work for a living. They're difficult people, I understand. Some people love our president. Some people hate our president. He's president. Get over it. Whatever. That's the event. That's the event. It's a constant. But we have control of the outcome, the O, because we have control of our own response to that event. So if our response to the event is to be angry, to be resentful, to feel constrained, to allow ourselves to shrink, to give up our liberty and our freedom to feel how we want because something outside of ourselves beyond our control feels like it is overwhelming us, then we have given away our power. We are not choosing our own liberty. The greatest example of this was a man named Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl was a Jewish psychologist in Germany prior to the Second World War. He was taken from his home. His entire family was put into a concentration camp. He lost everything. His wife, his whole family, everybody died in the concentration camp. At one point, he tells a story in his book that is so heart-wrenching. He is taken before the Nazis. He's in the camp, and they've found that he has hidden a manuscript to a book. So as punishment, not only have they taken that, They bring him in before this sort of panel. He is stripped naked. The only thing he has is his gold wedding band. He does not know at this point what has happened to his wife. They even take his wedding band. But in that experience, he decides to be free. He chooses liberty. He decides that he can find meaning in this experience, that he can forgive the Nazis, that no one can give him or can take away the freedom of his own heart. He survives the war. He comes to the United States. He writes Man's Search for Meaning, one of the classics. But it's a choice. We have to choose liberty. So I invite you to think about where in your life right now you might be feeling constrained. You might be feeling less than free. Where you might be feeling like someone's doing something to you that's keeping you from expressing your good or experiencing your good. And I invite you to choose to be free of it. Now, one way we choose liberty is forgiveness. I know, people hate that word. But it's not about the other person. It's how we choose liberty. It's how we choose to be free. That is the response to the event that creates the outcome of liberty. So whatever the event in your life, choose your response. In the case of the American Revolution, the event was that they'd been colonies of Great Britain. The first response is they write a Declaration of Independence. The outcome is, yeah, big deal, the British send troops over here. The next response is that then they go to war and they fight a whole war, and that's pretty good. Outcome's good. They have independence. But now nothing really changed. They're this loose confederation of states. Nobody has any power. Like Delaware's taxing Pennsylvania if they want to put stuff, ship stuff there. There's tariffs between the states. It's crazy. So they try a different response, and that different response is the framing of the Constitution. So keep trying different responses until you get the outcome you want. That's how you know if your response is working or not. Is the outcome what you want? And then finally, we get to pursue happiness. We get to pursue happiness. We can be happy no matter what else is going on. We can be happy. And that's what we have been given the freedom to do. So I have a story from my own life. It's been 20 years now. Kind of blows my mind that it's been 20 years. But 20 years ago, in June, I was diagnosed with stage 4 lymphoma. I was given, at the time, my oncologist said I had a 50-50 chance of survival. Later, 5 years later, he told me that I really only had a 20% chance of survival, but he didn't want to discourage me, so he figured I'd either live or die, so it's 50-50. But statistically, only 20% of people at that time with stage 4 lymphoma made it. So I had just about every complication you can imagine. The cancer was everywhere. It was in my bone marrow. It was everywhere. I had a 3-year-old daughter, and I went for my first chemotherapy treatment, and I was allergic to the chemo, and it burned my veins as it went in. It was terrible. So then I had a Metaport put in my chest, and then my white blood cells didn't do what they were supposed to do, and I had to give myself a shot in the stomach 10 out of every 14 days. I hate needles, too. So anyway, one thing after another. Finally, I had the Metaport then got infected, and I had to have round-the-clock IV antibiotics. And so anyway, at some point during this whole thing, I was miserable. I didn't go out of the house very much. I had no eyebrows, no eyelashes. Because God has a sense of humor, I still had to shave my legs. Yes, I know. No hair, no eyebrows, but hair on my legs. I don't know. But anyway, I remember being like, good thing I believe in a benevolent God. But anyway, I had purchased, right after I was diagnosed, I like to do needle crafts, and I had purchased a cross-stitch stocking kit for my daughter, who was 3 at the time. And in kind of a morbid moment, I started cross-stitching, thinking, if I die, she'll only be 3 or 4 years old. I'd like her to remember her mom. And so I think I'll cross-stitch this stocking so she has something to remember her mother by. And so come around to October, and like I said, miserable. I didn't leave the house much because the eyebrows and eyelashes made me self-conscious. I had an IV in around the clock, so that was also kind of an interesting complication. I wasn't allowed to go take my daughter to school or pick her up because my immune system was so compromised, so I only saw her for a few hours a day. And I remember sitting, and I was in constant pain, and I remember sitting in my rocking chair in my bedroom cross-stitching, and I had this conversation with God, and I said, I'm just done. I'm just done. I don't care what the resolution is, but this has got to get resolved. And honestly, at this point, I was so surrendered, I didn't care. Take me or leave me. I really don't care. But do one or the other, because I'm not going to do this anymore. But if I stay, I promise I will be happy every day of my life. I promise whatever I have to do to be happy, I will do it every day of my life. And I sat there and I cross-stitched and I cried for about an hour, cross-stitched and cried. I was like, I will be happy every day of my life. 4 days later, I had a CAT scan. There was no evidence of disease, and that was 20 years ago. So, and I have chosen happiness every day of my life. Does that mean that I am chronically happy? No. I have my moments, but you know what I do when I'm not happy? I go take a nap. I go do whatever it takes to make myself happy. I eat ice cream. I get a pedicure. I take a bath. I go do something, but I do whatever it takes to pursue my own happiness because my being miserable does not serve God. You being miserable does not serve God. Where does it leave us when we are miserable? We are sick, we are broke, we are unhappy, we are lonely, we are all of these things. It does not serve God. The founding fathers knew this when they wrote those words in the Declaration. They understood that we are endowed by our Creator with these rights, these, as much as I hesitate to use this word, obligations to embrace our life, to choose liberty regardless of the conditions around us, and to pursue our own happiness. Who are we if we are not magnificent beings? If you told someone that you went to Center for Spiritual Living, Delaware, and they said, oh, that sounds interesting. What is that? And you explained to them what we believed, and then they followed you around for a week, would they be able to know what you believe? Would they be able to watch your life and go, oh, yeah. Yeah. Ernest Holmes used to say, if you were convicted of being a religious scientist, would the jury have enough information to convict you? Or if you were accused, would the jury have enough information to convict you? Let's let our lives be that Declaration of Independence. Let's allow our lives to show that we are free from the constraints of the conditions around us. Let's embrace life. Let's choose liberty. And let's pursue happiness. And let's pray. So let's take a moment and feel. Feel. That is how we know the presence of God. God speaks to us through our emotions. And so as we feel, we commune with the divine. As we go to that heart space where we understand and recognize what we are feeling, we get the feedback of what the divine is telling us right now. And because we are always in control of how we feel, we can bring ourselves right now to that attention that we are one with life, we are one with God, we are one with all that is. And so recognizing that this is the truth for all of us, that we are one with the divine life, I know for each one of us in this room, that there is only this life that we are allowing to flow through us or not. And so I call each of us to a higher awareness right here, right now, that we allow that life to flow through us, that we tune ourselves like a fine instrument to hear the call of Spirit, that we feel in our heart that which feels good. That which feels good, because if it feels good, it is good. And if it doesn't feel good, it means that we are choosing something other than liberty, that we are embracing something other than life, that we are pursuing something other than happiness, and that cannot be. And so I just ask each one of us here to feel our way into the God life, because what I know for sure is that as we are emanations of the divine, we are here to live as such. We are here to be the magnificent creators of our own experience. And so I just know that we move into our day and our week with this holiday weekend with our heads held high, and we have a new and deeper understanding of the freedom that is ours, not just as Americans, but as part of the human race. We have a new understanding that freedom is who we are, that the ultimate goal of all life is complete emancipation from all discord of every nature, and that goal is sure to be had by me right here, right now. Oh, and so I know as we walk out of this sanctuary that we are a living testament to our own Declaration of Independence, that we are a primer of how to do it, that we are guided and guarded along the way, and that our life becomes a testimony to every single intention that we set. Because truly, there is good for us and we ought to have it. And so it's with gratitude for this truth, this capital T truth that is self-evident. This truth that we are life. It's with gratitude for that and for the consciousness of each person present, this joyous co-creative experience in which we have just partaken. It is with gratitude for this service. It is with gratitude for the divinity of all life that I just release these words. I know all is well. I let it go and I let it be so. Let's join together and say, and so it is. Amen.
Amen.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Wow. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm inspired. How about you? Holy cow. Holy cow, it's a very Hindu thing to say. If you know this, feel free to sing along with me. It's a beauty. Whenever you're